Twice on time. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Nick Martinez.
My name is Gaby Martinez.
And we're going to be talking today about cultivating meaningful family moments. This is a little skewed towards family and parenting and sort of general like nuclear family stuff. However, that's just what's applicable to our life right now. That does not mean anything that like structurally what we'll be talking about can't be applied to individual relationships, marriages, extended family, right? It all comes into play because the purpose of the talk is about how to think about creating a moment, right? We all want to sort of live in a world where everything's sort of organic and fun. It's like, oh, this was such a great thing.
It's not.
And that, well, like that works sometimes, right? But there's lots of memories and habits that happen that we don't intend to. So if we're creating intentional family moments, we have to be intentional about them.
Can we take a survey?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, this is going to be interactive. Okay, if you are just a married couple with no children, and that is your family, raise your hand. Thank you, thank you. Okay, if you are family with babies, all right? Okay, all right. Mm-hmm. If you are a family with elementaryers, all right, okay? Family of middle or high school, okay? And families of college students or they already left the home. Okay.
Wide range, right? We'll talk about, stages and evolving over time. Don't look at the ground. Everybody look up. Here's another survey. Raise your hand if you're 100% confident in the color of the carpet right now.
Don't look down.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw two of you look down, and I'm glad you didn't raise your hand, right? I won't make you guess or out loud, right? I made this slide mostly as a joke because I'm not going to do let's talk about the science of memories, right? Yes, well, I figured we don't have time for a full-on joke there. The reason why I wanted to show this slide, one other than let's talk about the science of memories, I'm not going to do that. But early on in my career, I did a lot of what's called observational research. So my whole specialty was sitting and watching and capturing what was intended to be valuable information so that we could do something with it, some marketing, some product development, whatever. The two things on here are kind of the real things that matter. Number one, sensory input, what you can see, what you can feel, taste, enters your sensory memory, but it only lasts for a second. If no action is taken, then we lose that information, right? Your brain saw the carpet at some point, rejected that information as being important, and then you forgot what color it is because it is not important other than to answer my question, right? So what do we need to think about when it comes down to making memorable moments, being intentional and taking action as it relates to creating memories, right? Forming and fostering memories. We love Inside Out in our house. We've watched it a million times. We saw Inside Out 2 a million times in the theater.
Amazing.
Memorable moments come down to, in our opinion, sort of three things: frequency, intensity, and value, right? So frequency is pretty straightforward. How often something is happening, right? Habit-forming things if they're happening very frequently, right? So one example is an unintentional memory that was formed for Gaby as it relates to her dancing and batting cages when she was a teenager.
Right. So when I was young, I did tap for 7 years. I don't do it anymore. And my mom was working hard. My parents did not go to college, right? So they were hustling, bustling, and throughout the week, they were tired. I remember Piggy Fridays. It was called Piggy Fridays because we didn't have to take a bath. They ordered pizza, and we stayed watching X-Files. Is that is that devotional time? No, but I still remember that to this day. And then Saturdays, she would wake me up to go to tap, and then every time after tap, we would go to McDonald's. Whatever you say, I know McDonald's isn't healthy, but it did make a frequent memory for me. And that's when I was younger, and I still remember that to this day. And then fast forward, came the time I had to learn how to drive. Still learning. My dad would take me to the batting cages since I played softball every morning. Then he would teach me how to drive in the parking lot of the batting cages, and then he would take me to La Carreta after. So I still remember that. I know, right? Cuban bread all day.
So frequency is important, right? She remembers this not because McDonald's is an interesting meal, but it's because she did it literally every week for 7 years, right? I don't know that Myra Dandrinos intended to form a valuable memory with her daughter of McDonald's specifically. I'm sure if she could go back, maybe it would be a slightly different restaurant. But the point is frequency does matter when it comes to forming memories, right? So really be intentional about that. Second one is intensity, right? The sheer intensity of the moment. This is generally self-explanatory. Another obvious example of this comes from Gaby's family. Gaby's mom, and actually Gaby was they were on a plane like 20 years ago. Had very violent turbulence. The story that gets told to me every time is the stewardess like hit the top of the plane. So pretty bad, right? Myra still holds on to that and is deathly afraid of planes. I don't know how she's on a plane
She went to
now,
Greece,
coming back from Greece.
doing great.
She's on her way back from Greece, probably asleep the whole time, right? Just whatever she had to do to get on that plane. Very traumatic for her, right? So intensity by itself isn't necessarily a good thing, right? If you have something that's very frequent and very intense, that's usually also coupled with trauma, so we try to avoid those things. So we like to think of frequency intensity as being on a spectrum, which is what I'll talk about in a second. And the last thing is value, right? So this is about intentionality and value. What is the purpose? What is the goal? What are you trying to do with this moment? The idea of going to McDonald's was not valuable in itself, but the frequency of taking your daughter to a thing to learn a skill and then rewarding her with, a food and shake afterward, that was the purpose of it, right? So yes, Gaby's associated McDonald's to those things, but ultimately she formed what was considered a valuable memory because of those two things. So I know you wanted to talk a little bit about goals and plans. So really when we think about forming memories and intentions, what is our goal? What are you trying to make memories about? Are you trying to start a tradition? Are you trying to teach your child something, right? Are you trying to form a habit in them? And Gaby wanted to talk a little bit about our goal in our home.
Right. So whether your home is with children, without children, whether you're an empty nest, what is your goal? What is your whole hopes in this? And also, obviously, guys, we're always going to go to biblical foundations because that's how we make a home. And the way it goes is that husband and wife, we have a leader in the home. Husbands, you are the leader. But the way you lead is different. I love saying to people that there's no book for Nick. There's no book for me. There's no book for your baby. There's no book for that. You have to learn that as you go. But it does mean that we at least get to start at a foundation of that. And God sets that foundation, that men are the leader in the home. So if I come up with an idea, I'm going to run it by Nick. Okay, even I'm the idea person, he's going to be my leveler, we're going to talk about that. I have to submit to it though. I wanted to go to Disney. I didn't tell you I was going to bring it up. Can I bring it up?
The Disney cruise. Yes, you can.
Okay.
Very important to Gaby.
So important.
She's like, our kids were missing the window. We have to go on a Disney cruise.
I was like, Noah's graduating.
And I look at the dollar value. I'm like, we do not have to go on a Disney cruise.
And I was like, but wait, yes, because even he got to go on, I didn't get to go on. Like we had this conversation, right? And I was like, but I could save the money. I could tutor, and we could do it. And he made a deal with me.
I did.
He made a deal. He goes, if you save X amount in this amount of time, we'll consider it. I was like, got it. That time went by, I had nothing.
$0. A little bit in the red, actually. If
it was my Amazon. It was so negative. But so he said, honey, I love you. And he was so tender with me, which needs to happen. In our culture, a lot of the leadership makes it feel like we gotta be so tough about it, but that's not true. You gotta know your wife, and he knew to be soft with me. And he said, honey, we can't. But we could do another cruise somewhere else that is half the price. I go, okay, just let me cry for about a day. And I can accept that. And he did. Yeah. And I submitted to that. And we are going on a cruise together. We're going to go to Alaska. It's going to be great. It's exciting. We did save over a year for it.
Yeah.
And I submitted to that. So we can't make a memory as a couple if I'm not submitting and he's not leading. That has to be the first. Second, for our kids, are we teaching them obedience? As children's ministry worker, that is so important. We can't go on vacation and make memories if our kid isn't going to listen to it's bedtime because we have to go snorkeling the next day. Or when they are around other people at our family gathering, are they being respectful? Are we teaching them first at home? God has a hierarchy in this, and it needs to be applied first. You can't make memories if you're not going to have the foundation, biblical skills of how God even tells us to be a family. Okay.
So how do we apply this to sort of everyone generally, right? This is very specific to us, right? What works for us may not work for you. You can try it if you want. That's totally fine, right? There are some values that we all agree upon, going to church, right? Our belief systems. There's some fundamental things that are inarguable as it relates to building values in the home. Outside of that, it's really up to you guys. If you guys really value travel baseball and you want your kid, and you like baseball, your kid likes baseball, and that's important to you, then good. Formulate and figure out how to structure your life around that so you can build memories around that. We don't like those things.
That's not us.
I'm not going to wake up at 6 a.m. every Saturday to take my kid to swim practice.
Our Saturdays are precious.
Yes, not gonna, but that's what's valuable and important to us, right? So understanding and figuring out and taking the time to figure out what's valuable to you.
Right.
The other thing about that, and the other advice that we give is to, like most things in life, try often, fail quick, iterate frequently until you find what works, right? You want to try something for a month, we're going to do it every Saturday for a month, boom, 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 okay. Nope, that didn't work, everybody hated it. All right, we just lost a month, right? Yeah, it feels like you lost a lot, but you lost 4 instances of you tried something.
Right.
So we tried every sport with our kids. And we did the I-9 League, which is like the most casual of casual leagues.
Yeah, it's not an intense, and we're not signing them up to be like college players. We're just like, what are we going to do here? And it was only Saturday. There was no practices at all. So our
We
kid
showed
was
up
like,
Saturday for like 90 minutes. That's the most I could do. But they were always short on coaches, so I had to coach everything. So I would coach flag
coached
football.
too.
Oh, you did actually coach too.
Thank
That's
you.
true.
I coached
She coached baseball. I coached flag
Soccer.
football and soccer. We did a couple of rounds of soccer.
Yeah.
We learned that Lily really liked to play goalie and nothing else, but Lily more liked to be with other kids. And that's sort of all that mattered. She couldn't care less about the actual sport.
No.
So once we identified the valuable part of that, and I could say, oh, I don't have to wake up and coach a bunch of kids who also don't want to be there to play soccer, right? We can move on from that. So identify the things that work and reject the things that don't work and move on so that you can figure out what works for you guys.
Right.
Right.
And even for date nights, because date nights are very important for us, even as we were in the beginning stages of starting a family, we made sure, I was like, babe, twice a week. We could do twice a week. And he was like, no. But we tried it, and it was a lot, and we put maybe too much emphasis in it, and that didn't work out. But what we did do before we had kids, which was my favorite, we joined a softball league together. And that was so much fun. And that was our date days. So we figured out sometimes date nights could work, and sometimes date days would work out better. Because also, as then we had kids, date night was like at 9, and we were like, let's do a date day. And it was like, I'm awake, you're awake,
Yes.
wow.
Significantly better energy
It was so
level.
nice.
So that speaks to the balance of frequency and intensity, right? So we like to think of it more on a spectrum.
Yeah.
If something is happening more frequently on the daily or weekly level, it should be less intense. You should not bring the same level of intensity to like, we didn't pray over our food before our meal, to like, oh, the family trip, the annual trip is ruined. Those should not be the same level of intensity, right? So figure out what's important in that moment and sort of reject the rest. They forgot to brush their teeth one day. Okay, fine. It's okay. Don't freak out about it. Again, don't cry over spilled milk, right? It's very easy to get, I told you to brush your teeth. It's not a big deal, right? If they skip 7 days in a row or something, then now we're moving past it, right?
concerning.
But if they forget something, especially for the younger kids, it's okay because you're trying to just do it every day, right? So we're going to zoom into these individually at the daily level, right? This is more about frequency than it is about intensity. This is about habit forming things, right? These are your chores. These are your meals. These are prayer together, either before a meal, before you go to school, right before bed. Communication, right? Open and frequent dialogue. Gabby likes to do the whenever we pick up the kids, what was your high today? What was your low today? Tell us about your day, right?
It worked out better because our kids were different. Like, even with each other, I'm a content person. I'm like, give me every detail. What did you do today?
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, I can't do that. So then I told him, though, I need some form of communication throughout the day because when we get home, we're go, go, go. Or we're tired. So we fell into that communication. So he'll send a funny GIF, and then I'll send a funny GIF back or something like that so that we could just have some contact with each other. With the kids, after I got to go to Womanity Camp, we were able to come back with some principles that I was like, babe, we should probably be instilling this. And on the way to school, we read a verse together. And I'm reading it while I'm driving, but I'm getting better at that because Noah has it. So he'll read it, and then we'll repeat it so that we have those seeds sown. You should be reading scripture as a family, not for the sake of memorization. If you can, that's a gift, but it's so that you are sowing those seeds because we can't do this alone. So we say the verse, and then we ask for prayer requests, we pray, and it's in the car. I know that Instagram and TikTok has like everything planned out, beautiful. I'm a hot mess. I am not crafty. Don't have a Cricut. My agenda is paper. I do not do digital. It is how you work to give that frequency. And so prayers, like we said, but the high and low. High and lows, because when you ask a kid, how was your day? They're like, where do I start?
Yeah. Or I forgot. Right.
I forgot. They did. But it's very simple. Yeah. It's okay. What was your high today? Ooh, I didn't have a high. That's all right. That's okay. Mom didn't have a high either today. What was your low? Well, this happened. All right. I just got to have 3 minutes to investment time.
Yeah. And so, again, that's more about frequency, right? It doesn't need to be a big deal. Every little Bible verse, it doesn't need to be like, well, here's a planned out sermon where on Monday I'm going to start teaching them about Daniel, and then we're going to weave it into this. It does not need to be that complex, right? Give yourself some credit, right? It's just about forming the habit. It's just about being consistent, right? It's so easy, especially because, like, you know, TikTok, Instagram, whatever, you see this window into someone who's over-planned this thing and it looks beautiful and it looks great and they do it every day. Yeah, you don't see the all other garbage that they don't do because they spend so much time doing that, right? So do what works for you at the daily level, but be intentional about, figure out what you want to do at the daily level, make it a handful of things, and just do it frequently. It doesn't need to be intense, it should be frequent. Now, as we start to move a little bit more, a little less frequent, a little bit more intense, right? This is where we want to start establishing intentional repetition. A little more focus on the value. What are we trying to learn and teach? So this is where we have our date nights, right? Gabby and I have one date night a week. That is very frequent relative to other people. Most people I've talked to like, well, it's once a month or every other month. Get that. You do whatever works for you. She needs a date night a week.
I need it.
Right?
That's me.
And that's how we manage, right? So not to say that you have to do it. Game nights, playing game nights with the kids, family devotionals, days of rest. We're trying to be more intentional about that as well, where at 6 p.m. on Saturday night until 6 p.m. on Sunday night, we get together. Gabby bought some little box that she found on Instagram that was super cute.
It's on Instagram. It's from a church.
That's from a church. Advertising on Instagram. Where you read a verse, you plan an activity. It's not any more intense than the daily, prayer thing, but it's just very specific to the day of rest, right? So this is a weekly event, same level of intensity, but now we're forming a little bit more, we're communicating intentionality about that as well. This is also where, your sports come in, right? Teaching your child a skill, right? If you want them to learn music, if you want them to learn the piano, right? We bought Lily a guitar and I've done 2 lessons with her in the last 3 months. Probably need to do that a little more frequently if we figure out if it's valuable beyond just a decoration on our wall, right? Church attendance, incredibly important. I think we all agree on that. Going to youth, to young fellows or little women, to your connect groups, right? Whatever that balance needs to be. You don't need to do all of them, right? I know this is being recorded, but you don't have to do every single thing.
Yeah.
You just got to do what works for you, and it should be intentional and frequent.
I will say on Sundays, I sit down and I write out the week and I say, babe, this is what's going on throughout this week. And I say, okay, day of rest, we're going to do it on Sunday because we're not serving that day. Day of rest, we're going to start it on Friday at 6 p.m. and we're going to end it on Saturday at 6 p.m. What that rule is that we don't touch emails from work. Kids are not allowed to do their homework. So if I know a project is coming up, I know when to change that day. And then sometimes we don't really get to have a day of rest. It's okay. It's all right. We don't have to put that intensity because I know I did it last week or I did it the week before. Once again, going back to intensity.
Yeah. So now is when we start to get to the stuff that people are maybe more familiar with, something that's a little less frequent and we put a lot more emphasis on, right? This is where we start to drive up the value of the activity. This could be, Gabby and I try to do a parent-kid date once a month. So I'll take Lily out or I'll take Noah out. We'll do something special, just the 2 of us. And because we have 2 and 2, right, it's easy to sort of trade off. Harder if you have more kids, I get it. So you do what works for you. This might be lazy Saturdays where we plan out. I have to request in advance. I want a 24-hour period where I don't have to do anything.
He will tell me I need one Saturday for me to work on the home and not us to go anywhere. And I have to make sure when somebody invites me somewhere, I said I can't go or we can't go. And they ask why I go, we have a family thing. They don't need to know, but you will make time for what's important to you. You can't say I'm too busy. That's not the way God created us to be either. Busy, 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 busy. It's just that we live in a city, okay? And that's the culture. You have to create your culture at home.
Yeah. So this is also where you might do like your 24-hour adventures. I know some people have, annual passes to Disney. You do a day trip on that. That might be somewhere Disney starts to get a little more intense, right? It's a little farther on the scale. But there was a time when Gabby was at home with the kids. We had annual passes, and if it was a Tuesday and she's like, we got to get out of the house, she's going to go to Disney and take both kids, when they're 4 and 6 years old.
And they loved it.
And they loved it, right?
And even for couples, maybe taking that once a month cooking class together, doing something together, or even investing in yourself separately, saying this is my me day. This is going to be my me day. It's every Tuesday on the third Tuesday, but it's something that you know is coming. But once again, bringing up that intensity. What happens if you're sick on that Tuesday? Oh no, right? That's our concern.
Right. So then we get to like the big stuff, right? This is full on intensity, which is why we encourage people to remember the value and the goal. What are you trying to achieve, right? This is your holiday traditions. Gabby has, a note that if we have some time, we'll get to of in this month we're going to do this, and this month we're going to do this. Sort of setting up a plan of like these are the things we want us and our kids to do, right? We did a cookie swap in front of our house like a couple days before Christmas. Gabby had the kids design flyers. They went around the neighborhood and handed them out. We had like 40 people show up in our driveway. It was really, really fun.
It was cool.
And that really doesn't happen these days anymore unless you have one of those weird, very tight-knit communities. If you're like me, most people don't around here. So thinking about sort of that range of frequency intensity, it can be very fun and adventurous, or it can be relaxing. This is sort of our goal axis here, right? The first thing to remember is where I start to talk about things like Disney, right? If you think you're gonna go to Disney and relax, you're wrong, right? And anybody who's been to Disney knows this, right? So I'm probably preaching, right.
You do.
You need a vacation after vacation. I'm telling myself more than anything else because I know I'm gonna be tired at the end of our Disney trip. So what I should not do is complain about how tired I am during and after the Disney trip because I know what I signed up for, right? Knowing and remembering what you signed up for is like the number one thing to make sure that you personally don't ruin any of these moments, right? Again, talking to myself specifically. So what's on the other end of the spectrum? Relaxing, very frequent. Watching cartoons during breakfast, right? I did this sort of every day of my life when I was a kid. Our kids do it too. We put on a cartoon, whatever age appropriate thing while they eat their cereal, right? I have yelling at them, eat your cereal, stop watching. They're like just like halfway with the cereal,
We
right?
gotta go, doesn't matter.
But we're trying to sort of form, some of those memories. Then we get into intense relaxing as well. So this is not frequent, but this is very, very intense or intentional, but relaxing. So this is Gabby's family. Once a year, every year for the past, 600 years.
Since I was 2 years old.
Okay. They all go on a big extended family trip. There's like 25 people that go. So this is Sophie Dandrinos. This is all of her extended family, uncles, aunts, kids, right? And the goal is to go to a beach and sit on the beach for 12 hours and do nothing. Yes. Now, I hate that.
He hates it so much.
I cannot cook in the sun for 7 straight days. Thank you, right? However, it's not about me, right? Because yeah. So because the kids love it, she loves it, her family loves it, and it's important to create family. Some of our best memories have come from these trips, and sort of navigating these trips. Now, does that mean I'm going to sit and bake and burn for 12? No, but she also has to know that it's okay if I leave for 2 hours to go get a sandwich and just sit in the air conditioning for 2 hours.
We compromise.
We compromise.
We communicated.
Right? So that's what we call the intense relaxing, right? Very well planned, very infrequent, very focused and intentional about family time. Yeah. So more than anything else, it's about family time, right? And then you get what I call fun and frequent, and this is for the folks with the little kids, is playtime on the ground. I also did not really enjoy this very much, which is just getting on the ground and spending 15 minutes playing pretend with your kids, right? Or maybe a better example is reading a book to them every night when they go to bed until they can learn to read themselves. This was very painful for us because it's like, okay, we're going to read the same book again. They already have it memorized, but we're going to do it. We're going to build that habit and continue to do it because it's very time intensive, it's very slow, but you are forming lasting memories. And now our kids they always have 2 books in their hand. Noah has a giant, Noah, hold up your book, please.
Oh, that's our son in the back, by the way. Hello.
Noah, hold up your giant Pokedex book, please.
You're
good?
Want
okay.
to show his
Sorry.
blood.
He's got a big book there. He's reading stuff, right? So how do we manage this kind of thing, right? And this is where we start to talk as we wrap about seasons, right? And how these evolve and change over time. this was the hardest thing for me and Gabby to do, was just to be on the ground and play pretend. Because every kid wants to play differently,
Yes.
right? They have different interests, they want different things. You have to find a way to maintain and focus on the value part. So,
and even with those of you that don't have kids, maybe your spouse is love language is touch, and that's not yours, but they need it, and you have to give that frequently. Sometimes we have to learn how we need to do these things for our spouses, even in our empty nester season. I love my dad saying to my mom, because my mom doesn't want to go anywhere. She wants to stay home. My dad's like, adventure. And he has a saying with her. He goes, if I go, we go. And she remembers that was our agreement. I'm going to go. But then she says, but let me be at home and let me watch my show.
yes. So how did I manage this specifically, or Gabby and I manage this? Well, I tried to align what I found valuable and fun to what the kids found valuable and fun. So we gamified everything. So we just started rolling dice for stuff. Like, oh, your fairy princess wants to fly up and grab a thing. All right, roll 2 dice and you got to get a 5 or higher. So I was like, let me try to teach them a little math, but I'm also going to roll some dice, right? We turned it into a game that at least I could have some kind of engagement with, other than just, and then we fly out, oh, this is so great. Because then it becomes this like escalating intensity of like pretend that.
And then she gets mad because he's not doing it right.
I'm not doing it right. It was always, I'm not doing it right. I'm not playing pretend right. Okay?
Yeah.
That was always the thing. So how do we manage that, right? And how does that evolve over time? Because what we were doing was building sort of this relationship of playtime and games and spending time with each other and sort of finding the balance between the kids and the adults.
And we also I put a 20-minute timer. 20 minutes of me not touching my phone, 20 minutes of me locking in with my kid. If my kid wanted to do Legos, I was going to build Legos with him. She wanted to play pretend, which I love the pretend time, because I did Barbies when I was younger, but she hated Barbies. So I would do whatever she wanted. We would draw, we would decorate. And then I'll be like, babe, I got to go up and get ready. You got to go play with her. She needs time with you. And that's what happened.
Right. So then it started, getting on the table and rolling dice. Now, eventually, as they got older, it got a little more structured, right? As we start to transition. So what's the intentionality here? It's not just about sitting on the ground. Maybe it's about learning how to cooperate with your siblings and your cousins. So we have Emily and Lily here. We have Noah here, myself, David, who is now this tall and has one of the broccoli head, one of the 7 broccoli headed kids in youth. And that's their Uncle Aaron. And what we actually did was we made a more structured game. All the kids were really into Plants vs. Zombies at the time, which is this little game where you plant plants and they shoot little beads at zombies that are coming. So we turned it into a game with dice. It's like, you have this power, you have that power, you have that power, we're gonna roll dice, and we made it almost like a board game type thing. And they got to sit and play pretend, and they absolutely loved this. Add a little more structure, force them to do a little bit more math, right? We're transitioning into learning more targeted skills, but still maintaining the playtime. But because it was a little more work to prepare, right? We didn't do it every day. It became something we did every time the cousins got together, once a month, once every 6 months, whatever that was, but still focusing on the value, but shifting that as the season changed.
Right. So you're seeing that intensity build up, but also we are going with, if your kids are out of the nest, how are you spending time with them? How frequent does it have to be? Are you evolving your conversations? Are you realizing that they're older? And then also giving them some space and you giving yourself space.
Yeah. So where are we today? So Gabby has taken on the burden of learning how to play Pokemon cards.
Yes.
Learning how to play Yu-Gi-Oh cards. So that's
I have
Noah
my own deck.
And Gabby playing Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh up at the top. Right. I'm just standing back refereeing like, oh no, you can't do that. This action you got to attach the energy card, all that other stuff. And then we have now full-on Dungeons and Dragons sessions that we do with the kids. So I plan like a big thing once a year. Well, now it's like what they demand it frequently.
What's funny enough is that is on our beach trip. Every time you see that picture, that was on the annual beach trip, because this was something that he knew that he could bond with the kids. He didn't want to be in the sand with the kids, but he would build a sand castle or two, make sure he spent his time. But at night, the parents got to have some time to ourselves, and he would take the kids for 2 to 3 hours, and they wouldn't want it to end.
Yeah. So structured game time, right? More focus on intensity, more focus on intentionality, still trying to maintain high value. We don't do this level of, game system, right, all the time, because then it becomes work and then it becomes not as fun, right? But the whole goal of this is to have quality focused time that they enjoy. And if they didn't enjoy this, it would have stopped here, right? If we hadn't discovered early on like that this worked, then we would have never gotten to these points and the pictures would look very different. But it's because we tried a bunch of things early and this is what stuck, we were able to evolve that over time.
So in closing, because I know we're short on time,
Yeah.
what's the whole point? You do not have to put all your eggs in the basket for your once a year thing. Because what if you get sick? What if there's something comes up? What if weather happens, right? Because if you keep up your frequency daily, you're not going to be like, oh, well, that's it. We didn't get any of our family time. Daily matters. Weekly matters. Monthly matters. If you miss here and there, it's okay because you're keeping that frequency up. And even today, Nick and I make sure we sit down and we have a game with our kids because they're at an age that they don't really want to talk at dinner. And so what are we going to do? We're going to have a game. But then they're like, Monopoly. We're like, oh, no. We don't got time for Monopoly. But we could do Go Fish, okay? Something like that so that you don't put that intensity on that once a year that maybe something came up. And that's how you're able to create harmony in the home. We start off with a biblical foundation. We have our resources to keep it daily, weekly, monthly, and yes, make those annual things. The family holiday traditions that we have were by my kids. I got a Post-it, and I wrote on the back of each Post-it a holiday. Noah and Lily would pick it off. They wouldn't know what they got. So Lily got Halloween, Noah got Christmas, I got 3, Nick got 3, because we get to have a say too, thank you. And so they would come up with the idea, we'd give it realistically, and now every year we have a certain tradition. If you do not fulfill your New Year's goal, you get a pie in the face.
This is true.
I did not get my pie in the face, but Lily is holding me to it to have 2 pies in the face for 2026.
Yeah, you're banking a debt of pie facing.
But once again, make that idea, adjust with it. If it doesn't happen, okay, but at least you're doing your frequency to keep that family togetherness.
Right. The frequency of figuring out what works, because if you plan an annual event and the annual event doesn't work, oh, well, now you've got to wait another year to try again, right? Figure out what works, iterate quickly, reject the stuff that's not working, and then make that a focus of the value of your memories, right? That's how your memorable moments come down to balancing that frequency and intensity and making sure you're focused on the value. So that's all we got.
That's all. We have what?
We got 5 minutes for questions.
Great. Q&A time is great. Now, okay.
Let me get some water.
Resources, right? I'm not a reader, but it looks like I am, but I'm not. So, for example, which one's this one? Kids, right? Praying over your kids. We have a book for that, so that we're praying over our kids weekly. Making sure your kids have their own Bible in their own terms.
Very important.
Even if you are empty nesters, if you without kids, where are you in your season to do your studying? Also, Parent Q. We have an app with the church that they bought, and it's made available for you. It's called the Parent Q app. It has the Bible verse that our kids are learning, and also they sell books for your child at the age that they're at. So right now, this is Parenting Your 4th Grader, right? And it's actually very repetitive, but it taught me some words that maybe I should start introducing to my kid. It also said what chores they should probably be doing at this age, and so I'm able to base off that. Your husband and wife devotional book. Okay, actually, this is my prayer one for you. This is praying over your husbands. Are you praying over your spouse? Is your spouse praying over you? Are you praying together? David and Paula are one of the best examples of a praying couple. They have prayed together since I could remember, which I was like a teen, and we try to follow in those footsteps. Let's see, this one is family devotion. We try to do this once a week. Now, there may be elaborate stuff in here, but we don't have time to do that right before dinner. But we found out that doing it at dinner was best because they're eating and we're talking. So we will read it ahead just to make sure that it's hitting our goals, our values. And then we'll say, your turn to read, your turn to read. What questions do we have? For the little ones, there is a Hello Bible box, was my favorite, where they would actually bring you the Bible lesson in a box monthly or weekly, and it would have arts and crafts. Nick would do an arts and craft, and it would for a family of 4 or however many you have, and it's specific age. It was so cool. Once again, and then also a devotion for husband and wife. If you have not really mastered your communication skill, to be honest, there's no top of the mountain. I learned that from Maury and David, mom and dad, that there's no top of the mountain. You don't get to say, oh, we've been married for this year, we're good. No, and we are not perfect at all. We fall a lot. So having a devotional book for each other, we know I put a reminder on my phone to say devotion time. Did we have it? reminders on our phone is so helpful for me. I don't know about for you guys, but that's what we use.
What's your current reminder? What does it say here?
What does that one say?
What is that one? I don't look at any of my
You don't look at my
reminders.
reminders.
So
But
you
I
do what
my
works for you.
reminders. But we will have to take questions if
Check
anybody
on
has any
who's
questions.
serving for preschool this week.
Oh, I have to check on who's serving.
Yes, please. Yes.
All right, so does anybody have any questions or ask about resources? You could ask. I know it's sudden, is why I give my students questions in advance to read.
You give them the questions for them to ask.
I
Yes,
do,
that's
because
true.
they don't know where to start.
That's okay.
Just saying. It's Hello Bible Box. You'll see a donkey in front of it, and I believe they're adjusting. There's also the Day of Rest box that I have at home. It has a start cultivating, which means you're working. So 6 days a week, you have that facing out. And then when your day of rest happens, you put things in there that represent what your work day looks like. So like Noah would put a pencil. I would put
It wants you to put your phone in there, but that's crazy. I'm not going to do that.
I put, some of us could do it. I put my lanyard for my school ID in there to remind myself I'm not going to work. And we would close the box, and then there was one deck of cards. Half were a Bible verse, and then half were 3 activities that you could choose out the day to do. So like it would be funny because we're in Miami and it's like jump into a pile of leaves. We're like, that's not going to work. So, but that was a really cool thing that takes, 5 minutes to do with each other. And it's not about trying to be quick and get it over with, but it's about starting somewhere that's realistic and practical. What is it called? That is called.
See, something like Day of Rest.
On Instagram.
Let me see.
If you go to my Instagram is half messy. I know it's not even my name. If you go to my Instagram, half messy, I post a lot of those resources, and you can DM me, and I'll get it for you like that. I'm very
If you
quick at
search
responding.
Day of Rest box, it's literally the first thing that comes
Wait, is
up.
it?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there you go. Search Day of Rest box, you'll see it.
Family Sabbath Kit from Good Kind is what it's
And they also have an Easter one for you to do with your kids, which I just ordered the new one that they made, and the Advent calendar for Christmas, where you do a verse with each other every day leading up to Christmas, and you turn a block over because the kids really enjoy the blocks.
Yeah.
It's really cute.
Do whatever you got to do. Is the answer. Yeah.
I guess a question would be like, it's nice you guys have your kids like close in age.
Yeah.
But any recommendations for having kids that are very apart? Under 9 and is 19.
Right.
My sister and I had 6 years of difference,
Right.
and she didn't like me for half of my life. But because my parents, this is for real, when she asked me to be her maid of honor, I was like, me? She goes, yeah, I love you. I was like, you do? But our vacations together were sacred. When your kid is older, and actually I sat down, I was at Sea Camp, I was in the Keys this past 3 days. I just got back at 7 with my 7th graders. And I sat at my table with all my boys. They gave me the tea. So we sat down and I asked, boys, what's really important with you with your family? I'm doing this workshop, I want to ask. And they're like, the trips. Like they knew the trips that they were taking and that they were activities. That's really how they were able to hone in. And also with their smaller sibling, they had to be together. Because you don't get to go on trips, yes. And also we do not have spent $1 million to spend time with each other. Sometimes, one day we said we're gonna go have a tent in the living room. And we're gonna do star watching. And we put up the app and you put it on the ceiling and you can see the constellations for that day, even through your ceiling. It was a lot of fun. Now you might get a roll eye or two, but it doesn't matter. Because your middle school and your high school will never tell you they want to do it, but they need it. And I'll tell you right now, my students never want a hug. They'll never say, I want a hug. But I'll hug them, and they need it. So just remember that you being consistent, though, is key. Because they will hold you that. Oh, you said we're going to do Bible devotions every week. We didn't do it. They will hold you to that. Right. That's the only thing with the older kids. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
You're in a different season.
Different season.
And like, so I was listening to what you're saying, and so I'm taking some notes, and I put it that I want to bring back games night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so my 7th grader next to me is asking about video games on games night.
Oh, here
So,
you go.
yeah.
That's Nick's.
So you can definitely find a balance. There's a lot of really cool new board games that are out there. If you're really adamant about not playing video games together, there are so many options compared to like, I feel like when I was a kid, you had Monopoly, you had Trouble, you had card games, and you had like Connect 4, a couple other things. Literally, there's thousands of different types of board games. You can go, there's like a website that will review board games. We have a bunch of random ones. One that we just started playing called Happy Little Dinosaurs, which you flip a card and it's some like, joke.
No matter what, you might go extinct.
Right.
And it's very funny.
So like, oh, we're going to play this card, whatever, and they're short and they're quick and they're fun. It doesn't need to be like the 2-hour Monopoly thing. And the other option is there are multiplayer video games that you can play that are fun. Like my kid, if we want to play Mario Kart together, right, we find a balance. And it's still fun if you're just like shooting mom with the red shells the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Like you can find a balance. We make Gabby play, the kids and I make Gabby play video games, and she just runs around like, ah!
Like that's, but it is a compromise, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, like Lily would ask for something this week, and then I'd be like, well, then we got to give Noah a chance to ask for it. Right. Compromise. Maybe all 4 of you, once a week, each of you get to say. Like on my birthday, I was like, Mom's game today. We're going to do the Ticket to Ride. And they're like, no. And I was like, too bad. And then they get into it. Right. And just like Nick's like, hey, let's play this video game. And I looked at him. I was like, please, God, no. But he was like, the kids want to play it and I want to play it. Yeah. And I get in my console and I'm like, fine. But then I get into it because
I think you actually fell asleep in the middle.
Okay, but that was a very tiring day.
Yeah.
I did.
So alternating choice is a good one.
That are in ranges, in different ranges, elementary to high school, and the big ones in our house is telestrations.
Oh.
But like you
that's a good one.
You draw it out, so it's funny to see like there's a word and everybody has to draw it and then guess it, and it goes around the table. So it's really funny. Or Kids Against Humanity is another.
That's
word,
another
like,
song. There's just
funny.
so many.
Yeah,
It's really about trying.
Yeah, trying what works.
A bunch of
but
different
also
things.
like
and it has a big age range.
I think today though, the mini games, mini games are fun too. They're so good, but I think also what's important that maybe we lose as a city and being a church is that we don't talk to each other. Like in this room, there are many seasons that are apart, but there are seasons that are together. Are you guys sharing your resources? Maybe not, but maybe you need to look around and say, hey, thanks for asking the question. I have this. Let me share with you. If it wasn't for some other family members sharing me what they use, I wouldn't have the Hello Bible box, okay? So can we close with a word of prayer?
There's literally people waiting outside. We won't have time, unfortunately.